man. You cannot marry a woman without gills. You're from two different worlds. Oh, I've wasted my life.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and just yesterday I talked about on the channel how Steve Geppi was stepping back into the reins as the president of Geppi Family Enterprises, and just a few hours later there was an article released, and apparently some retailers that have been defending Diamond Comics profusely are not too happy with Geppi Family Enterprises, Diamond Comics Distributors, specifically due to some rising costs. And here to talk with me about that is industry writer, freelance editor, Aaron Sparrow. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to be here. Always fun to talk to you, Wes.
Well, it's funny how these things turn so fast. These people, Brian HIBBS, these retailers, Brian HIBBS specifically was vehemently defending Geppi Family Enterprises and really denouncing DC Comics for leaving the fray. And we find out that maybe his loyalty wasn't quite so strong, as we learned today when he told the Hollywood Reporter their payments to Diamond in recent weeks have increased as they've come back from the pandemic, in part because of a relatively new policy that sees orders divided up into smaller shipments, meaning more charges. I know that you order comics for a couple of shops in your area. Have you guys noticed this as well?
Yeah, no, it's been a huge problem. Diamond has, now the shops that I work with have local pickup, which means they get shipped to the Diamond warehouse and a driver goes out and picks up the entire order, and they do that once a week. Ever since Diamond has come back from the shutdown, what they've been doing is they've been shipping things to retailers via FedEx, charging them more. And if you know anything about the way that Diamond packs boxes, sometimes they will just throw one thing in a box and let it, bounce around in there and then ship it out to you. And then you end up paying this outrageous shipping charge when it should just be going to the local warehouse to be picked up. And it's happening, several times a week. There'll be deliveries from Diamond, coming in on the FedEx truck, no invoice, and the invoice that you won't see the invoice for those items for several weeks. So you basically have to write down everything that, that you receive and keep a log of it, because when
your own invoice.
Yeah, because you have to create your own invoice because, to keep track of what you're receiving, because, in 3 weeks when you get the actual invoice and it says that you were supposed to get, say, 10 cases of Marvel Legends and you got 3, you have to be you still got charged for them, and you have to be able to report that you didn't get them. The other huge problem is by shipping things via FedEx, when you go get your order from Diamond, it's nice and organized on a pallet, and things still get damaged, but the damage is generally not more than 10% of your order, unless something absolutely terrible happens. Well, the way that they're doing it now, shipping it out, if you order a box of Marvel Legends and collectors want their figures mint, they just slap a label on the very thin box that the Legends come in, and then it gets thrown on a FedEx truck and bounced around, across the country until it gets to you. So by the time you get your product, it's absolutely hammered. So they're not doing retailers any favors with this strange new, policy of, just shipping out smaller things and shipping out reorders, via FedEx. It's not doing retailers any favors. The product's getting damaged. You can't keep track of it. It's actually more work, and they're charging you more. And I can't help but suspect it's because Diamond does not have the workforce to handle things the way that they were pre-shutdown. I think maybe some people didn't come back or they let people go, but it's been a real shit show.
Yeah, so this is what Brian HIBBS said specifically about his numbers. He said, I was paying roughly 6% of wholesale on shipping from Diamond pre-pandemic. This is raised up to approximately 10% after the pandemic, and we've had single weeks rise as high as 25%. Now that's enormous. That is a large increase in cost, especially when your margins, in this industry are razor thin. I can see why he's so upset.
I definitely can too. I think that, Brian's a guy who likes to come out and make bold statements and he likes to be in the news. But, in this case, I think that he's definitely, probably being pretty accurate. I don't know the exact numbers on how much more we're spending. We've got to crunch those numbers and see over the last couple of weeks. But I don't doubt him at all that it's, at least 10%. 25 sounds absurdly high, and I'd be interested to know exactly how that happened. My guess would be that Diamond shipped,
a bunch of small packages together,
and didn't consolidate, didn't do any solid packing, that'll definitely increase your costs because you're paying per box, and then on top of that, you're paying for the weight. So it's just been a nightmare. I can't even imagine if you were only dependent upon comics, how you could even hope to continue to make a living the way that things are going right now.
So we did hear a response. This is what Chris Powell, the Chief Relationship Officer of Jeppy Family Enterprises, had to say. Our base shipping rates have not changed, but the landscape in which we are all operating has. Freight costs increase as a percentage of an order's value as the weight decreases. Smaller shipments cost more to ship per pound than larger shipments. A number of publishers have reduced their publishing activities in response to COVID-19 challenges in the retail space, and that was appreciated by many retailers who saw the need for a slower ramp up to full production, later adding, some discounts from various shippers are passed along to retailers, but are also based on specific weight thresholds. Some retailers are missing those thresholds now, but we hope they will soon exceed them again. So basically kind of putting the onus on the publishers and the retailers, saying the retailers, you asked for less comics, the publishers are putting out less comics, and that's why the costs are coming up. And also the retailers are ordering less comics, and thus the thresholds aren't being met. And then again, that is their problem.
Yeah, well, I would ask, first off, what about shops like the ones I work with where we pick up our product? Why we've never had our product shipped to us. We've always picked it up at the warehouse. Why is it now being shipped to us? What changed? That's not ever how we wanted to pick it up. That's still not how we want to do it. We've put in several calls and several emails to Diamond and cannot get a response. So it would be nice if this, what was his title? Relationship manager?
Yes, the Chief Relationship Officer.
God, nobody can just say customer service anymore, can they? Yeah, it would be nice if you could get a response from the relationship officer to kind of shore up your relationship with Diamond. But, like I said, I suspect that they came back from this ill-prepared. I think that they were kind of like forced into it. If, it hadn't been for Diamond strong-arming them, I don't think they would have come back online as quickly. And I don't think that they're ready for it. And I think that things are completely falling apart. And the sad part is it's going to be the shops that suffer.
And the weird part is also this is during the comeback campaign, which is intended to combine a promotional campaign for return to service for Diamond Comics with a fundraising effort for nonprofits assisting comic book retailers. But they're kind of funding that by charging the retailers more. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Back the Comeback. I hate that hashtag so much. It was such a stupid idea and such a stupid campaign. And the idea that people are going to want to collect comics that have that stupid little logo on it, to commemorate this time, I think it just shows you how out of touch the people running the industry are. This industry is run by old men who just have no new ideas and no idea how to do anything. And when Back the Comeback logos on comics is the best that you've got, I just burn it down. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. What is the point?
Who wants to commemorate 2020?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's looking forward to reminiscing about this. As a matter of fact, I would say that Facebook needs to deactivate its little algorithm where it shows you memories. So because in 5 years,
don't remind me of that year.
Yeah, in 5 years, I don't want to see anything from 2020. Just don't show me any of it.
Skip year. It's been so bad. Of course, there's all kinds of memes. My plans for 2020, the real thing, and it's always something absolutely depressing because it feels like no matter where you are in America, it's just not been a good year. Some people are having it better than others, but nobody wants to commemorate the great 2020 pandemic that shut everything down.
No, I even posted a meme a while back. I just took 2 images and it was, me at the beginning of 2020 and it's somebody saying, people are basically good. And then, me 6 months into 2020 and it was just a scene from Cabin in the Woods where that one character is saying, yeah, I had to dismember that guy with a trowel. Mm-hmm. I feel like that is exactly where nobody wants to remember this garbage fire of a year.
Absolutely not. So this is also something that Chris Powell said. This is kind of also laying some blame onto the retailers who have been diversifying their ordering practices. And he had this to say: the consolidation of orders from one source has always been the best way to maximize overall freight costs. Obviously, he's wanting people to consolidate all their orders into Diamond, Retailers who have now moved some of their purchases to other distributors, whether by choice or when forced to do so by DC's recent changes, are experiencing a reduction of that benefit and are seeing their overall costs go up for goods. I wonder why he's not acknowledging the fact that Diamond shut down everything. I think they're acting like every other industry that was shipping books and magazines also shut down, because that's not true. A lot of their competitors in the book shipping business or even the board game shipping business, they kept going on. And it feels like Diamond's not taking any responsibility for shutting down an industry, and retailers saying, I don't want that to happen again. I might need to diversify where I'm ordering from because Diamond might not be dependable.
I'm so glad that you said that, because if I was taking a drink when you read his statement, I would have done a serious spit take. Just the fact that they try to lay it all on DC. Well, retailers aren't consolidating their orders because of what DC did. No, what DC did was in reaction to what you did, which was shut down and not provide any product. You stopped doing the one thing. You had one job, and it was to distribute, and you stopped. So of course retailers went elsewhere. If retailers need to purchase, like, let's say, they're buying toys like we are. If you stop sending them stuff, well, then guess what? I'm going to open a direct account with NECA. I'm going to open a direct account with Hasbro. I'm going to stop going with a consolidated order because you have let me down, and I need to continue to get product to keep the business alive. So don't blame it on DC. They did what they had to do. They saw that you would pull the rug out from under them, at a moment's notice, and then hold their money on top of it. Of course they went somewhere else. They also have AT&T breathing down their neck. Of course they went somewhere else. They're trying to justify their existence. And staying with a company that cut and run at the first sign of trouble is not good business. Of course you want to diversify. So for Diamond to blame that on retailers, oh, you're not ordering enough stuff for us. Well, you have proven to be undependable. And since the comeback, you have proven to be even more undependable and incompetent, and you can't even ship things without having them be destroyed when they arrive. Of course people are going to go elsewhere.
So one of the benefits, of course, of doing this is you do the consolidated ordering. You get everything from one source, so you get discount on freight. So you can kind of overlook maybe a damaged product here or there, even 10% of your products being damaged, because the overall costs are so low that you eventually, the discount is worth it. But now that people aren't getting these discounts, why would you order anything from Diamond if you didn't have to, knowing that you could probably go through another distribution channel, pay the little bit higher cost that you're going to get from Diamond anyway now, and maybe not get damaged product?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to, even if they're still ordering some of those companies' products from Diamond, hedging their bets a little bit. Like, maybe Diamond will get it before this other distributor gets it. So I want to order a few cases from Diamond, but I'm going to order some over here too. People need to be buying their products from multiple sources. Having a monopoly, YouTubers have been talking about this for years, and places like The Beat just downplayed it. Oh no, the industry's great. The industry's great. Bleeding Cool, all the shill media sites coming out and poo-pooing it and saying that all of the YouTubers were crazy and that the industry had never been more successful. And 2 weeks into a shutdown, the industry grinds to a complete halt because it had one choke point of failure.
I do want to point out that we did call that one right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. I would pat myself on the back, but we're not going to play the video for this one. But we did call it. But okay, Aaron, I got to get into the retailers because this is funny. There's so much hypocrisy in here. We've obviously kind of been dogging on Diamond right here, but we got to talk about Brian HIBBS. So Brian HIBBS was going out and he was lambasting DC Comics for leaving Diamond. He was lambasting retailers for going along with Lunar and UCS because they were perceived competition in the market and things like this. So he's a Diamond guy, right? He's Diamond through and through. He's been looking down at everyone that would let Diamond or pull away from Diamond, pull their orders away from Diamond. How could you do this? And this is his quote. You're going to love this one. I haven't bought any graphic novels that I didn't have to from Diamond in something like a year and a half. We are a book-focused comic book stop, and Diamond's shipping policies have cost them tens of thousands of dollars in orders from stores like mine who long ago abandoned graphic novel purchases from Diamond for better terms. So it was okay for Brian HIBBS to go look elsewhere and find better terms of service for his product, and go buy everything he can, not from Diamond if he can. But it's not okay for DC to leave Diamond when they completely failed the market.
Well, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily hypocrisy, because if you have read anything by Brian Hibbs is always about Brian Hibbs. So, for him to condemn DC, that's because DC moving to Lunar and to UCBS, or that inconveniences Brian Hibbs. So therefore it is the worst thing in the universe. I mean, this is a guy who wanted shops all across the country to not be able to open because he has his shop in one of the most liberal cities in the country and was not going to be allowed to open. So therefore, if you're a retailer in Wisconsin, you shouldn't be allowed to reopen because he can't, which
Wouldn't
is
be fair.
Patently ridiculous. Also, he is the person who has kept digital comics from growing because he raised the biggest stink about them being cheaper than physical copies. Well, they should be cheaper than physical copies. They're not a physical item. They're just something on your screen. So they should be cheaper. The two markets are not the same. I know people who buy physical copies who never want to read anything on their iPad. They absolutely hate it. And then I know people who read things on their iPad that are never going to go buy a physical copy. It's two separate markets. And so, that's just another example of Brian looking out for Brian.
So it's not hypocritical, it's just in character.
Yeah, it's just absolutely in character. It is consistent with his values, which are Brian Hibbs above all.
I just love the talking shit on DC and anybody that supported DC for their move. And then you find out for a year and a half, he's been doing anything he can not to deal with Diamond. If you sell something that's offered from Diamond, I will go and buy it from you because Diamond sucks. He says it right here, but he's all about backing the comeback, baby.
Yeah, because DC inconvenienced him personally, so therefore, they are the enemy. How dare they? But if it had been in a way that he felt benefited him, like if DC going to Lunar and Lunar was right down the street and he could just pick up his books and they were offering him a great discount, and he didn't have to pay freight at all, then I'm sure he'd love it.
All right, so there's another comic retailer, and I want to point this out. I have been called on this channel anti-retailer. I've been told by comic book retailers, not the ones we're specifically talking about right here, because no one interviews these people that show up in my comments and dog on me. But they've told me I'm anti-retailer and all my stances are anti-retailer. I feel like I've been pretty much pro-retailer from the start, saying Diamond being a monopoly, it was a bad idea. It was a single point of failure. If the industry was going to die, it was probably going to be because Diamond died and no one expected it. And this is what Ryan Higgins, who also condemned DC for leaving Diamond for Lunar and UCS and other retailers for supporting that, the owner of Comics Conspiracy, this is what he had to say. Because Diamond's so great, and this is why he supported him. For decades, we used an independent trucking company for our weekly deliveries. Along with most other stores in the Bay Area, our local shipping group dissolved after some terrible service, and most of us switched over to Diamond Standard UPS delivery. It was the worst 6 month in the history of the shop. Boxes were lost, smashed, delivered late, and cost thousands of dollars in damages to the product a month. Yet DC and the retailers who supported DC's moves are the ones that are bad.
Stockholm syndrome. There's no other explanation for it. Listen, I don't know what the exact concerns of shop owners in the Bay Area is. I imagine they're pretty high because you're selling a product that doesn't have a great profit margin and you're in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I guess my advice to you would be move. Would be like the first piece of advice that I would give, because I don't know how you can continue to support a comic book store in the Bay Area with rents going through the roof and everything, every neighborhood being gentrified and tech moving in. Your mom and pop operations are going to get squeezed out. So I definitely kind of feel for these guys. I don't think you're anti-retailer. I'm certainly not anti-retailer, in my
But these guys
dream.
are saying the same thing I've been saying, and then I got called anti-retailer for supporting DC.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, everybody on YouTube that was saying the industry was in trouble was a hater and was, alt-right and, was a bigot and, had an agenda that had nothing to do with comics, for daring to say that the industry was headed toward an iceberg. And now that the industry has hit the iceberg, everybody that was condemning YouTubers is now acting like they were talking about it all along. Well, this has always been a problem, having monopoly is a problem. But then they'll come out and they'll defend that monopoly when they feel like they have to. It's like these people have no consistent set of values. I mean, if you go back through my Twitter feed, I'm talking about the problems with Diamond for years back, like years. I'm talking about it. My position today is just as consistent as it's the same message that I've had all along, which is this is going to be a problem, and now it is a problem, and everybody's pointing fingers and nobody's coming up with solutions, and Diamond is just dropping the ball. And now these guys that like defended them initially and condemned DC for daring to leave are now coming out and airing all this dirty laundry about Diamond. Well, guess what? Everybody's had dirty laundry with Diamond. Everybody's had problems with Diamond for years and couldn't do anything about it. Well, now some options are opening up. And I think DC was smart to take that option because Diamond failed them on the one thing that they depended on Diamond to do, which was put their books in stores.
Yeah, literally the only thing that they have to do that no one else in the world, well, at least in North America, was doing was distribute periodic comic books.
Mm-hmm. And, you had businesses shut down, but you could still do curbside pickup. You could still do, all kinds of things. We were still selling comics at the shops that I order for. People were still picking up their pulls, pulling up to the curb. We'd walk it out, and there you go. So it wasn't a complete shutdown for everybody. There were plenty of places, plenty of avenues. You still could have sold comics online. You still could have, had curbside service or made appointments or, any of the number of the things that were allowed during the initial days of the lockdown. But Diamond just cut and run. They just decided that it wasn't going to be worth it. And I think it's because Diamond's margins Diamond is not as successful as they want us all to believe. I don't think that they're making as much money as they, like to project.
I don't either. So we don't have much more time here, Aaron. I've said it with Perch on the channel a couple of times now. I don't think Diamond makes it 18 more months. What do you think?
I'd be surprised if they did. I mean, at the current rate of failure, if they don't turn things around quickly, I don't see how they can.
Yeah, I don't see. There's got to be more publishers looking over at Lunar and UCS's direction right now, being like, I'm not sure exactly what their operation is, but it's got to be better than what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah, and maybe Diamond just stops. Maybe the comic distributors go to Lunar or go to UCS. Maybe they do that, and Diamond just doesn't distribute comics anymore, and then they just have to shrink down and kind of just be a distributor of pop culture products, which I would think is I don't know what the numbers are, but I would think is the bulk of their business because when I go to do a pickup or the times that I've gone to the Diamond warehouse.
I think the reason that they distribute those is because comic shops order them.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if
you could still have comic shops
ordering comics from them. There's not a lot of people. There's no reason for people to buy their memorabilia or graphic novels and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. If we stopped getting comics if we stopped getting comics from Diamond tomorrow, the shops I deal with are mostly collectible stores, and they have comics because comics are an ancillary product to those, to those other things that people come in for. That's the reason that they carry comics. They're not a comic-focused shop because, it was determined a long time ago there just wasn't the money in it to make that viable. You had to diversify. So that's the way that the shops that I deal with, that's the way they're run. And I think that we would probably still order some product from Diamond if they didn't have comics, because comics are secondary for us. And there's probably some other shops that are the same. But, not if they don't get their act together. It's just better to go direct with the distributors and instead of having it consolidated, you write 10 checks a month instead of one. But yeah, I mean, to get your product on time, undamaged, be able to reorder quickly and actually get some customer service, that's invaluable.
All right, Aaron, I really appreciate your perspective today. Lots of stuff to talk about, and this story will never end.
There's something new every day.